good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Thompson, for that introduction, and welcome to your second session in the Google Suite. So I'm going to lead the way by stopping the video. You've seen me, and that's enough of me. So I'm going to stop my video right now, and I am going to share my screen. Okay, so as we proceed, let's just bring this down. All right, is everybody seeing that screen? I'm going to make it bigger, but can we all see that? Ms. Thompson, you're seeing it okay?
Yes, we're seeing okay.
All right, perfect. All right, so I am going to be taking you through Google Forms, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun doing this little activity. And I'm going to encourage you to work along with me. So I was already introduced, so that's fine. All I wanted to add here, there's my email address, should you need to get in touch at all. All right, kstewart@campioncollege.com. Okay, so welcome to Google Forms and quizzes. And today's video and PowerPoint, they will be posted in the Jamaica Teaching Council channel on YouTube, along with some other useful resources. And you will have seen that we already posted resource material in the Google Classroom that Ms. Thompson set up yesterday. All right, so other useful training videos, of course, are available. There's a multitude of them available on YouTube and through Google. So I would encourage you to bear that in mind. Okay, so let us go on here. All right, so the ground rules. So Ms. Thompson went through it, the fact that the microphones are going to be muted for most of the presentation. And so you can raise your questions, any concerns you have in the chat, but please don't let the chat distract you. It can get rather distracting. So I would encourage you not to allow that to distract you. And you already asked to turn off your video. So thank you very much for cooperating there. All right. So moving on. All right, so please note, we were asked to just remind you that evaluation forms that were shared in the email with the information about the sessions, they are not going to be opened until Friday. So you're asked to make notes for each session and then ensure that your email addresses are correct at that time. And then the PowerPoint presentations, that is actually already uploaded on the Google Classroom. So you'll be able to see that right after today's session. But all the other ones will certainly be available by Friday. So thank you everyone for your cooperation. And I'm encouraging you to log into Google or your Gmail account. So you're going to be able to work along with me. And Ms. Thompson set an excellent precedent yesterday with her rating scale. So I just want to encourage you to continue with that rating scale. So we're going to use a 0 for not okay, 1 for okay, and 2 for you are perfectly fine. So please do keep up. And how is everybody feeling at the moment? Hopefully everyone is feeling okay. So you could just put your little response in the chat. All right. These resources were already posted in the Google Classroom, so you can go and have a look at any of those. They're all pretty good, that you can just refresh your mind on what we are going to cover today. So we're going to start with a little activity. So the first thing we're going to look at quickly is, are these horizontal lines crooked or straight? When you look at these horizontal lines, are they crooked or straight? Ms. Thompson, I'm going to rely on you to tell me what people are saying. I'm keeping my chat closed at the moment.
Okay, straight. We have one person saying straight. Many are saying straight.
Ah, they know the optical illusion. So you're not having your brains fooled.
Oh, we have only one crooked.
All right. Well, this should prove it to you. You can see I've drawn a line there in yellow, and you can see that they actually are all straight. This is a nice little optical illusion. These are always a fun way of starting your classes when you're teaching online. All right, how about how reliable are your eyes? When you look at this picture, what do you see? So type in the chat, whatever it is that you see first. What do you see first? What are we seeing, Ms. Thompson? Any answers there?
No answer. Old lady, young woman, female.
So some people are seeing the old lady. So you can see her nose here. And there's her fringe and her feather in her hair. And if you're seeing the young woman, you're seeing her hair, her eyelash, her nose. So if you look at it closely enough, you might be able to see both figures. All right, how about this one? What animal are you seeing when you look at this one? What takers have I got?
Just seeing it. We haven't gotten any answers yet. We're still on the old lady.
Okay. Have a look at this one, participants.
Rabbit,
Colleagues.
duck, bird, rabbit,
Okay.
rabbit.
All right.
Rabbit, lots of rabbits.
Lots of rabbits. So you're seeing these two ears here and you're seeing the face and the eyes here. But if you look at it a little differently, you can change those two ears into the duck's bill. Yes, so you either see a rabbit or a duck, depends. Now this is a tough one. How many blocks are in this stack? So look carefully, I'm giving you a choice, 7, 8, 9, or 10. What is your answer? This is really testing if you can figure out what you can't actually see. What are we doing?
Let me see. I'm not seeing.
Come on, people, take a risk. Put your answer out there.
We're still talking about ducks and birds. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Oh, and my chat room has.
Chat room has frozen up?
Yep.
Oh dear. All right, we have a lot of people. Okay. Well, let's have a little look. If you looked carefully, you would see it's actually 9. All right, there are actually 9 blocks and you can tick through. All right, so there's your 1. 2 is behind, underneath number 1. Then you have 3. You have another one here. Count, you tick off, and you'd be able to see that there's another one behind there, and there are a total of 9. So again, this is another one for the mathematicians. All right, how about one for my English teachers? What do the following words have in common? Now, it's a very miscellaneous bunch of words here. Assess, banana, dresser, grammar, potato, revive, uneven, voodoo. Any guesses? This is a hard one. I'll give you a hint. You have to do a little switcheroo.
Not seeing any answers yet.
What happens if you do that? What I just showed you with my yellow arrow. What do you notice? Anybody seeing it?
No, I'm not seeing anything in the chat as yet.
All right.
I don't know if mine is completely frozen.
Okay. Well, what you should be seeing, colleagues, is that if you take the front letter, move it to the back, and then read the word backwards, it is the same thing. All right, so if you move the first letter, move it to the end of the word, you get the same word when you read it backwards. So again, these are just fun little ways of just entertaining your students, seeing how observant they are, seeing how sharp those brains are at the time you're teaching them. All right, so how about this? This is the last little optical illusion. What if you could make this go away with a wave of a magic wand? All of us who are in teaching, we are accustomed to this big pile. Wave a magic wand and it's gone. That's what today's session is about. What if you could set up an assessment in a very short space of time And at the same time, you're going to cut down your workload, be able to get and give back quick feedback. And on top of that, save on paper. So all my tree huggers, all those who are environmentally conscious, we want to do that. And all of this is at no cost. All right, so that's what we're going to be learning about today. So our objectives for today's session, you're going to learn how to create a Google form with different question types. You're going to learn how to customize the appearance, personalize it. You're going to incorporate multimedia. You'll learn how to share it. This is the best one. You'll learn how to use the automatic grading feature. You'll understand how to grade it manually, and you'll be able to view and analyze results. So that's a lot of things, but it's a very easy template to use. So let's learn. The choice to use Google Forms, in my mind, is quite clear. It's a powerful tool, but it's still quick to set up. It's very friendly to use. There are multiple applications for it. You have a variety of question types provided to you, a whole range of templates that are quite attractive. It supports multimedia, both images and videos, and it will allow you to collaborate, allow you to analyze, and allow you to save it that you can edit it in the future. And most devices are able to access it. So all of those are advantages to Google Forms. And of course, the big plus is that it's free. We like that it's a free online tool from Google. It's part of their online apps suite that's found in Google Drive. So all you need to access Google Forms is a Gmail or G Suite account. And you can access this variety of pre-designed templates, or you can make your own. Is everyone keeping up with me okay? Can we use a code if you're able to use your code of 0, 1, and 2 and let Ms. Thompson know how you are? Are you able to see, Ms. Thompson?
I'm not able to see, but I'm signing in with my phone, so I will sort that out in 2 minutes.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, colleagues, I'm going to just hope that you are there with me and we're not moving too quickly for you. All right, so teachers really love Google Forms, all right? Because with Google Forms, you can activate those 21st century skills that we all talk about, the 4 C's: collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And while you activate those 4 C's, you are doing it with 2 E's: ease and efficiency. And to any teacher, those 2 words are bliss. So let's get on with it. It is a multifunctional, very, very versatile tool. And the most common uses probably are for surveys and questionnaires, and also for quizzes and evaluations. But more and more, they are being used for flipped learning, especially in this time of COVID. So to get started, what I'm going to ask you to do then is if you can open in another window, if you're using another device, you're going to access it. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of accessing your Google Forms. The first one you can use is to go to My Drive, go to your drive, and click on this button here that says New. When you click on that button, you are going to see this list of options come up, and you're going to see at the bottom More. If you hover your cursor over that arrow, more options are going to come up, and you should see Google Forms. So when you hold your arrow over that, your cursor over that, you're going to see blank form or from a template. So I would encourage you just to tick on blank form. So just select blank form. You could also have gone to Google Forms directly. You could always just go to this address. If you too fast for you to see it, just type in a Google search, Google Forms, and you will come to this page, which shows you a variety of templates, as well as a blank form and a blank quiz. So we want to work with a blank form. So if you're at this stage, just click on the plus sign. So it's a nice blank form that opens up. If you want, you could also have opened a new tab on your device. And then you'll notice you have a 9-dot grid. This is your 9-dot grid. It kind of looks like a waffle iron. And if you click on that, you will see all the apps open up for Google. and you should see forms. You may have to scroll down a little bit, but you should see forms among those. So there are 3 different ways in which you can access it. And you'll notice that in your templates, there are a lot of useful templates that you can work with. Now today, I am not going to be looking at the templates. I'm not going to be working with the templates, but I do encourage you to discover them, play around with them, get familiar with them, because they're a useful starting point. All right, so when you choose the blank form, this is what you should see. So if you're seeing this and you're able to type it in the chat, I'm hoping Ms. Thompson is able to see it now. If you could type it in the chat, if you're seeing this blank form. So a purple form that says untitled form. Are you there? Are you seeing that now? Any clues, Ms. Thompson? Are we able to see it? Ms. Thompson? Not hearing Ms. Thompson. Okay.
Yes, we're able to see it. My screen is freezing, so I'm crossing fingers.
Okay, all right. Well, fingers crossed. All right. So people are able to open up and see their blank form. Great. So I am going to first teach you how to build a simple survey or questionnaire. It's very, very useful for collecting data, carrying out some research, and really just allow you to quickly create an instrument which allows you to instantly collate data. So I am now going to be leading you through the process by opening up my own Google Drive. So I'm going to do a new share now. I'm stopping sharing this little presentation. And I am going to just show you, I know. All right. Can everyone see my Google Drive?
Ms. Stewart, your sound has gotten a little low.
Okay, let me make sure is that better?
No, it's about the same.
Okay, it's about the same. Well, I haven't done anything new, so it can only be internet issues.
Okay.
All right. So I'm hoping everything is maxed for volume. Are you hearing me now?
We're hearing.
All right, so I'll talk a little louder. And you're seeing the Google Drive okay?
Yes, we're seeing.
Right, so I'm going to demonstrate quickly again what I just did for you, and I hope that you have done it for yourself. So I click on New. I bring my cursor down to More. And because I use Google Forms a lot, it's actually at the top for me. Move my cursor across and I can see blank form. So when I click on that, I'm there. There's my blank form. And I'm hoping that you've got one in front of you also. So what we're going to do now is just learn how to create this survey, and you can go ahead and create yours along with me just to get some good practice. So notice the first thing we're going to do is give it a title. That's just good practice. Let's name our form. So when you click in the field that says Untitled Form, we can immediately just give it a name. So I'm going to call this a technology survey. All right. And I want you to see at the top, it says all changes saved in Drive. So I don't have to be worrying about saving. It saves it automatically. All right. Now at the top left-hand corner, you notice it still says Untitled Form because that is the name of the file. Now, if I want it to have the same name as my form, did you see that? I just clicked in it. All I did was click in that top left-hand area and it transferred the name of my file to the top. So it's got the same name, Technology Survey. You don't have to leave it at the same name as that. You could change it to anything you want. You could call it Demo 1. You could call it whatever you like. But for my purposes today, I'm going to leave that alone. Now below Technology Survey, where I have my title, you notice it says here Form Description. So in that area, you want to put some little instructions, perhaps. You don't have to do it, but you might want to say, please answer the following questions. Okay, so we're pretty much set up to go with respect to our title. Now, the next thing I like to do is just change the look a little bit because we like to personalize things. For me, purple is not exactly my favorite color. So I'm going to go up and use a little paint palette. So if you look in the top right hand area, the first icon you see looks like an artist's painter palette. And it says there when I hover over it, it says customize theme. So if you do that with your form, click on that and notice what comes up. Has theme options. So I'm going straight down to theme color. And by theme color, well, I kind of like blue. So I'm going to click on blue. Look what happens to my form. You notice that it has changed color to blue. Perhaps you like yellow, feeling bright today. So you might click on yellow. But I'm going to go back to the blue. Now I can also change my background color. So if you look below theme color, notice there's a background color. So I can change that if I want, make it a little darker, or I can go back to keeping it light, whatever you prefer. The third thing that you can do in here is look at the font style. So notice, just like when you're in Google Forms, when you're using Word, you can change the font. You can change the font here, but there are only 4 options. And to be honest with you, when you look at them, notice the basic is the most readable. So I tend to leave it at basic because it's important that people can read your form easily. And final thing, if you're really feeling playful, you could choose an image. So if you look at the top, notice it says here, header. So I'm going to do a little thing here. All right. So it says here, header, and I am going to choose an image from that. All right, making this a little bit bigger. All right, so if I click on that, notice you've got all these cool images to choose from. You could upload something. Notice there are 3 tabs. You could upload something from your computer, but it's easy enough to use the themes that they have provided, but play around. I encourage you to play around. So because this is a technology survey, I want something that looks a little techie. So this looks like fingers on a keyboard. So I'm going to click that. And when I click that, I just have to hit insert and look what happens. There you go. So I've got a header, I've got my title, I've named my file, I've given instructions. How is everybody at the moment? Could you use the lovely key of 0, 1, and 2 to tell me how everybody is doing at the moment? How are we doing at the moment?
We are doing well. Some twos. We're doing well.
Okay, great. All right, so now we are going to get on with one more thing in this area that I want us to have a look at, and that is settings. So if you've named your file, you've named your little survey, you've changed the color, perhaps you've inserted an image, the next thing you might like to do now is come with me to settings. So notice we have 3 icons here. We just used the paint palette. So I clicked on it again to make it go away because I've finished adjusting my appearance. And I'm now going to go to the gear icon. Ms. Thompson introduced you to this yesterday, and we're going to use it again now. So notice this gear icon looks like a little wheel or a gearbox. It's called settings. So when I click on that, I want you to notice that 3 tabs open up. You've got general, you've got presentation, and you've got quizzes. Now, because this is my professional email account and my drive associated with my email account, you're going to notice down here, by default, it restricts it to users in Campion College and its trusted organizations. Now, I'm going to remove that tick today for the purposes of our exercise, but you could, if you have a professional account with G Suite, you could always restrict it so that only your students would be able to complete your instrument. For today, I'm not going to collect email addresses, but you could if you wanted to. I'll come back to that little setting at another time. But right now, I'm going to leave that as is. Now, once I've done that, I need to click on the button Save. So I encourage you to do the same with yours. And I'm hoping that you're keeping up, because the next part is where we start getting interesting, and we're going to add a question. So under my title, I hope you see it says here, Untitled Question. So remember, I'm going to conduct a little technology survey. So since we're dealing with, 1,000 participants, I may decide, you know what? I'm going to ask, what is your age group? So notice, all I did was click in the section that said Untitled Question, And all that I had to do then is type in my question. Now over on the right, please notice it says here multiple choice. This is the default question type that comes up. And often that's pretty useful and that's going to work for me right now. So I'm not going to trouble that right now. We will come back to it in a little while. Now I'm going to give you some options. So I'm going to be fairly open here. We're going to go with under 35. Don't ask me why I'm choosing 35. I'm going to set another group 35 to 50. And I'm going to set the final group over 50. So notice I added my options. I'm going to do that for you again. I added my options just by clicking in the area just underneath my question and typing in under 35. So I'll be particular and put under 35 years. Then I click beneath it and I put 36 to 50 years. That's just a bracket I've chosen to use arbitrarily. And then beneath that, I'm going to add one more category, over 50 years. So I have my 3 options that people can choose from, and it's a multiple choice question. Is everybody okay at the moment? Let's see your 0s, 1s, and 2s. Have you been able to do this yourself on your form?
We're having a few complaints about the sound being very low.
Okay.
I am hearing you okay. I'm not too sure what's happening.
How is this sound now? How are you hearing now?
It's a bit louder. It's a bit louder.
It's a bit louder now? All right, let me try.
Yes, 1 second, Mr. Person, could you please turn your cameras off? I'm not able to do that as the host. So we still have some people who have their cameras on, and I think if we turn them off, we'll be in a better position. Thank you.
Please turn off your cameras, everybody. All right, so I'm hoping you can hear me a little bit better now. Okay, so has everyone been able to add your first question? Because we want to look at a couple of other little features of this question now.
All right, we have some complaints that you're moving a little bit too fast.
All right, so would you like me to go back to starting a question? I'm going to.
I think that would benefit. Yes.
All right, so I hope everybody was able to enter a title, put an instruction, and then name their form. So let's add a question. Now to add a question, notice this area here is what we call a floating toolbar. So this is like your little toolkit. So notice the very first icon is a plus sign. So if I click on that, it says add question. And you will notice that this blank question comes up. So I am setting up my first question. You could type any question you want. For my purposes right now, I am going to type in, what is your age group? All I did was click in the area and I've just typed it in. What is your age group? Notice on the right-hand side, it says here multiple choice. That's fine. I'm going to leave that alone for now. And then notice below my question where it says, what is your age group? It says option 1. If I take my mouse, my cursor over there, and I click in that area, notice it becomes highlighted blue. That means I can type over it. So I'm now going to type over the age groups that I've chosen to use. So I am going to use the age groups under 35 years. And then below it, notice you have another circle which says add option. So I'm going to simply click in that box and you notice again, it becomes highlighted blue, which means I can type in that box. So I'm now going to type in 36 to 50 years. And I want just one more bracket so we don't shame any of us, including myself. And we're gonna click in that box. Notice it becomes highlighted, which just means I can type. And by the way, if I click accidentally and you notice it's no longer highlighted, that's okay. It just means I'm going to backspace my cursor and I will now type as I would normally in any Word document. So I'm going to put over 50 years. So those are the 3 possible options that I'm giving my participants to be able to select from. Are we okay with that?
Seems like we have some 1s and 2s, yes.
Okay. All right, so what we've done is we've created our first question. I promise you, when you rewatch this and you watch some of the videos that are posted in the Google Classroom and you practice, nothing like hands-on practice, you're going to be able to do it just fine. Okay, now I'm going to show you one other little thing down here. And down here, you notice there is a word that says required. Now, beside it is a little switch. Right now, the switch is grayed out. All right? So I can move that switch. All right? So I can move it to the right. I can move it to the left. It's like a toggle switch. So if you move your cursor over it and you click to the left and you click to the right, you can turn it on or off. Now, if I turn it to the right, I am making that question a required question. Now, what that means, many of you have actually used Google Forms. I think you signed up for these workshops using a Google form. So you would have seen there are some items that you must answer. So that's what this does. When you move it to the right, you're making it a required question, which means that persons must answer it in order to submit their response. So I'm not going to make this a required question, but I just wanted to draw your attention to it. Now, are we ready to add a new question? Time to add a new question. Are we ready? Yes? All right. So I'm now going to go to my plus sign. Remember, that's where we go. This floating toolbar on the right, which appears as soon as you click in a question. Notice anywhere I click in the question, you'll see a nice highlight. This highlight at the right, at the left, I'm sorry, is telling you that this is where I am. This is where I'm working. This is what is active right now. So I'm going to click on the add question icon, which is just a little plus sign surrounded by a circle. And you notice it tells you to the right of it. If you hover your cursor over it, you'll see add question. So I'm going to click on that. Notice automatically below another question space appears. All of this is being saved automatically in your Google Drive, so you do not have to worry about saving. Okay. Now this time, the question I want to ask is, what is your gender? So let's say I want to find out from the group today, how many males, how many females. So all I did, notice, come back, I clicked in the question box, and I'm just typing, what is your gender? Remember, as you do yours, you can do whatever you like. Any question you want. Now I'm going to actually change the format of this question. So remember I said the first question was multiple choice, and that is the default setting of your Google Forms. But I want to change it to introduce you to another type of question. So what I do, you notice there's a little drop-down arrow. So when I click on that drop-down arrow, all these fantastic options come up. I've got here short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, check box, drop down, and so on. If you look at your own, you'll see it for yourself. For this question, what is your gender? I want to use drop down. So all I'm doing is putting my mouse over drop down, my cursor over drop down. I'm going to left click it, and I've selected it. So notice what's appearing in that little window now is the words drop down. So what is your gender? I now need to put in my options. So I'm going to go by option 1. So when I click, left click in your box for option 1, it becomes highlighted, which means I can type over it. So I'm going to put male. And here's an interesting thing. You can completely ignore this, colleagues, but notice it comes up with suggestions. It gives you suggestions of female, prefer not to say, and other. So if you want to use the suggestions, you can. I'm going to leave those alone for today and just click in Add Option. Now notice, I didn't even type. It just came up with female. Google Forms is really quite smart. As I said, it's a powerful tool, and it may well help you as you're producing certain types of questions. So I've got my male, I've got my female. My two categories are ready to go. How are we at the moment? Ms. Thompson, how are we looking? Colleagues, do let me know how you are. Are you keeping up? Has your screen frozen, Ms. Thompson? I'm not hearing her. Okay. 1 second. All right, let me try and find you and open and let you in. All right, let me try and find you. Okay. All right, colleagues, because we're at maximum capacity, Ms. Thompson was kicked out. So I need to readmit her because I can't run this session without her assistance. So give me just a couple of minutes just to readmit Ms. Thompson. So just give me a minute, please, everyone, so I can find her and readmit her. Okay, let's see. And in the meantime, what you can do is just practice. Just practice with your form. If you have it open, just go ahead and play around with it. And we will pick up from here in just a moment. Just trying to find Ms. Thompson, because a lot of people are in that waiting room. Oh my goodness, quite full. All right. Remember to tell your colleagues there was another session that's running concurrently with this one. So they can go to that session as well, because this one is oversubscribed. When you have so many people, it makes it very, very difficult. All right, haven't quite found her yet. All right, let's see, let's see. There's no shortcut to find you in the waiting room, unfortunately. All right, okay, we found her. All right, Miss Thompson, admitted. Okay, so hopefully we're gonna be able to get back on track now. I'm just going to need to make her a co-host. So just give me a moment there. All right. All right, Ms. Thompson, I've just made you co-host.
Thank you, I'm back. I apologize, I was kicked out.
Excellent, all right. So let's try and get back on course. All right, and colleagues, are we doing okay at the moment? Are we all right? Have we had a little chance to practice a little bit? Are we okay?
I'm seeing twos and yeses, twos and yeses.
Excellent. All right, so hopefully you have made 2 questions. I believe that I just allowed in Mrs. Maladi also, so you may like to make her a co-host also if you wish.
Sure.
She could be a backup person in case we have issues again. All right, everyone, so let's try and pick up from here. So where we are now, remember, is the second question. What is your gender? We've got male, we've got female, and we have made this a drop-down question. So far you've learned 2 types of questions using their template. Now, another thing I'm interested in today is what people's role is, because I know that this session was open to teachers, parents, and administrators. So I'm curious to know Who is here? Now that question sounds a lot like one that would be suitable for drop down. So here is another neat little shortcut. If I know the question is going to look very similar to a question I've already made, I can use this little icon down here. So if you look, notice we've highlighted our second question. We can tell by that bright line at the left-hand side. Just at the bottom, the first icon you would encounter is called a duplicate icon. So it's like two pieces of paper. So if you click on that icon, look what's happened. You've got an identical question below the first one. Okay? So I've now got an identical question below the first one. All right, but I'm now going to change this question to say what I want it to say. And remember, my question is, what is your role? So now I can be lazy. I can just take my cursor and I can click in just by gender, and I can backspace to remove gender and change it to role. And having done that, I now need to change my options, because clearly your role is not going to be male, female. We're going to change the role using my options here. Click in the box and it immediately becomes highlighted. And if not, remember, all you have to do is backspace. As long as your cursor is there, you just backspace. So I'm going to type in my options, administrator. And then I'm going to go to my second option and I'm going to type in teacher. And then I'm putting an additional option, but notice it's there already for me to just add it in. All I have to do is click in there. Click, there it is. And I'm going to put in parent. Okay, so this is going to find out in what capacity you're attending these sessions. All right, so administrator, teacher, or parent. Now I'm only going to add in two more questions. So this time we're going to go, and I hope you know what to do. We're adding a question, so you go to the right-hand side. I'm not going to duplicate it because I'm going to show you a different type of question. So we're going to go to that little plus sign on the right-hand side in what we call your floating toolbar. So it's the top icon. Hover over it, left click, and there we go. We've got another question added. So the question I want to ask now is, what device or devices do you use most frequently? So here we go. What device, helps if I spell it right. What device or devices do you use most frequently? Question mark. Now I'm going to make sure people know that they can choose more than one, because a lot of people may use more than one thing. People use their smartphone and their laptop, or they may use your tablet and your smartphone. So I'm going to put here, select all that apply. Now, since I've done that, look what happened. Google Forms is super smart. It automatically changed my question type to checkboxes. If it hadn't, I could have done it manually myself by simply, notice, click on the downward arrow, look at all the question types provided to me, and select checkboxes. Are we okay with that so far? How are we looking, Ms. Thompson?
I'm getting okays and twos, okays and twos.
Excellent. Okay, so we're now going to type in which devices. So again, the same principle that we used before. We're just going to type in possible options in our spaces. So click at option 1. I'm going to put in the old-fashioned desktop. Some people still use a desktop. Couldn't tell the last I use a desktop. Then I'm going to add below it. Just click in the box below it, and I'm going to put laptop. And I'm going to add now, because remember, we're giving people a choice, I'm going to add another option, tablet, especially as the ministry is giving us some lovely tablets. And then I'm going to add smartphone. Okay, now maybe there is some other device that people use that I'm not familiar with. So look at what Google Forms allows me. Add other. I could click that. It automatically gives me that option. Click it and notice it appears, other. So that means when people are taking my survey, they can select that option if they wish, other. So we have now added, let's see, we have added 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Now you notice that numbering doesn't appear automatically. You can add the numbers in if you want, but it is not compulsory. All right, are we ready to add the final question for this survey? Are we set, people? Tell me if you're set, 1 or 2. Are we set?
We're seeing 2. I have 1, 0, but 2s, quite a bit of 2s and 1s.
Great. So what do we do to add
0.
What do we do to add a question, everyone? We click on that floating toolbar, that lovely little plus sign, which tells us we're adding. So click on add question, and beneath my device's question has appeared a new question. Now this one, we're going to make a little bit different. This one, we are going to ask another question. I want to know how comfortable you are with technology, because I know not all of us are what we might call tech savvy. So I want to take the temperature of the group. So notice my cursor is blinking in the question box. So I'm going to type in immediately, how comfortable are you with technology? Question mark. Now notice how smart Google Forms is again. I have not selected the question type yet. The question type, I remind you, appears at the right-hand side in that little window. Notice it has automatically selected linear scale, which in fact is exactly what I want. Linear scale was one of the options we were given, and Google Forms has read what I have written and interpreted it and put in a linear scale. Now, the default setting, look down here, you'll see you've got numbers 1 to 5. So you know when you're asked on a scale of 1 to 5 how you're feeling. So for example, today we're using a scale of 0 to 2. So we're going to use a scale of 1 to 5. You could change this if you wanted. Notice your arrow allows for a drop down on the left. You could choose 0 or 1. I'm going to leave it at 1. And you could go to the other extreme, which is your 5. And maybe for today's purposes, we can choose 10. So if I click on it, it goes all of the options right up to 10. So I'm going to choose, just run your mouse down, your cursor down, and select 10. So I now have a nice range of 1 to 10. Now you and I both know people sometimes get confused. What is the 1 to represent? What is the 10 to represent? So it's always a good idea if you're using a scale to add a label. So if you look below the scale, you're noticing 1 label, 10 label. So I just need to identify what that is by clicking in it using my mouse. I've clicked in that space, and I am now going to type in here, not at all. Remember what my question was. How comfortable are you with technology? So I am going to put not at all as 1. My highest rating, 10, I'm going to click there, and I am going to put completely at ease. That's what we hope everybody is going to become, completely at ease. Now there's a fun little thing I could show you here. Miss Thompson, you can tell me what you think. Would people like to add a little emoji? Because sometimes emojis can help us to see what things mean. Would you like to learn how to add a little emoji?
I think we would, yes, because our students will like it.
Right, so, okay. So you see where my cursor is blinking here after completely at ease. I'm going to just add a space just by hitting my space bar just to give it a little distance. And now I'm going to right click my mouse. So notice I'm in that space. I'm going to right click my mouse. And what you'll notice comes up is a little menu. And you will see at the very, very top of the menu, it says emoji. So I select emoji and look at what comes up. Fantastic. All kinds of little emojis, just like we have on our smartphone. So it has already highlighted the one I think I quite like, which is a grinning face, because if you are completely at ease, we're happy. So since it's already highlighted it, I'm going to select that one. So it's already selected for me. If I wanted to move over, I could move over. That's fine too. And notice it's already put it in immediately. I can just click the X to get rid of this. And you can see my little emoji beside my description. So it says completely at ease emoji. Now, to be fair, we need to put in one for the not at all. So let's choose an appropriate face for not at all. To do that, we just need to go back to that box where it says 1, not at all. So notice when I click in it, it highlights. Now, if I started typing now, colleagues, it would disappear. I don't want to get rid of the not at all. I want to leave that there. So I'm just going to click again and notice the highlight disappears. So just like I did with number 10, I'm going to add one little space with my space bar, right click my mouse, the menu appears, go to the top of the menu, I see emoji, click on emoji, and this time for not at all, I need a very sad and distraught face. So I'm going to choose this one. This one looks very miserable. So I'm going to left click on that and notice it is inserted. To get rid of this little menu, I just go up to the top where you see the X, click on that, and we're good. So we have completed our survey. That is the survey, all set. How is everybody? Are we there?
The only thing is they're not seeing the emoji when you pull it down, I think because maybe it's in another screen, but you're able to see how to do it. We have 2s and 1s, 2s and 1s. We're good.
All right. So the next thing that we want to do, everyone, is we want to preview our survey. So what we're going to do now is scroll up to the top. So you're going to scroll right up to the top of your survey. And we want to do a little preview. Now to preview it, you're going to go to the little eye icon. Everybody can see we looked at the first icon already in the top right-hand corner, which was your painter's palette, which allowed you to change the color. We're now going to go to the little eye icon. Now, when I press on that little eyeball, a new little window tab is going to open, and I can now see what my survey is going to look like. So this survey, this is how it looks. So there's my header, there's my title, and there are my questions. And notice, I can look at each one. I can see male, female. When I click on the arrow, this is exactly what my participants will see. I'll see what role. I can see the devices. I can see my scale. So I'm hoping you can all see that. Now, if I like how it looks at this point, I'm good to go. This is how it is going to look. So I just need to close this window again, because remember, when I preview it, a new tab opens. So I'm now going to go up and close this window. And don't be afraid. When you close the window, you're gone back to the original survey, the one that we were working on. So I've closed it, and here I am. Now, suppose I decide that, you know what? I don't really want to ask you your age. So when I look at the question, I decide I want to get rid of this question. What is your age? What do? Click in the box to make myself able to access this question. So once I've clicked in it, remember that little highlight, the colored highlight at the left is what tells you you're working on that individual question. Now you see at the bottom, remember we use this icon to duplicate. To the right of it, notice we have a trash can. Trash can, garbage can, it does what it says. Click that, question is gone. Gone. Great. So I've removed that question because I decided I didn't want to ask that question again. And that's what you can do when you set yours up. Okay? Now, suppose I decide, you know what? I think I actually want to move a question. So remember, we have here, what is your gender? What is your role? What device do you use? How comfortable are you with technology? I think I want to move the role question to the start of my survey. Very easy to do, colleagues. You know, when we're doing a test, because remember, this is preparing us to be able to write, prepare a test to send out to our students, for example. You simply hover over the middle. Now, if you hover over the middle of the question that I want to move this question, what is your role? I want to move it to make it the starting question. If I hover over the middle, you notice that you have 6 dots. If you're looking at your own form, I'm hoping you can see 6 dots dead in the middle at the top of your question.
Yes, we're seeing it.
Great. Now notice when you move your cursor over it, it converts from the finger pointing to a 4-arrow cursor. Now, when that happens, what that means is you can move it. So if I left click it now, I've grabbed it and notice I'm moving it. So I've just moved it and let it go. And it is now above what is your gender. So try that on yours, see if you can move a question. Again, just hover over that central area at the top of your question. You'll see 6 dots. When your cursor turns into a 4-pronged arrow, grab it, left click it, and move your question to wherever you want to place it. So I moved mine and it's where I want it to be now. Now, if I am satisfied, you are satisfied, I like how it looks now, I'm happy with the order, I'm happy with the header, I'm happy with the questions, it is now time to share the survey. So this is the important part now about sharing the survey. Notice all the way along, colleagues, all changes have been saved in Drive. So you haven't had to remember to save, which is what you have to do in Word and all the other tools that you work with. Everything is being saved automatically. You can delete things when you want, you can add things when you want, it saves it automatically. So I now want to share this survey, and I'm going to actually share it with you and see how many of you can answer it in a couple of minutes so we can get some results. Now, when you are ready to share a survey, which is something you could do with your students, remember, you can put these questions to anything you want. You can find out what your students feel about something. In fact, I could show you a survey I did. When we turned to this whole COVID remote learning, I sent my students a survey on topics because I wanted to find out how my students felt about the different modules and where they wanted me to focus my attention on. So if you're seeing, Ms. Thompson, are we seeing survey on topics okay? Seeing that?
Yes,
all right?
we're seeing, and but we have a question. Can you insert diagrams and tables to a survey?
Yes, I'm going to show you how to do that, certainly. All right. If you tell me I can pick up the pace, I will pick up the pace. I just didn't want to leave anyone behind. All right. So if we have a look at this, please notice to the right of questions, you can see I have responses. If I click on that, you notice I have 52 responses. So 52 of my students responded. to this little questionnaire that I sent out. Now, when I roll down, I just want to show you quickly, I asked them a question. Which do you prefer, face-to-face or online teaching? Notice I've got a lovely little graph. And Google Forms does this automatically. So when I tell you it collates the results, this is what it does. So I can see immediately most of my students prefer being face-to-face, which of course is what yours will prefer, I'm sure. I then asked them, how anxious are you about upcoming exams? So this was using the rating scale, the same one I showed you a moment ago. So notice I can see where majority of them are at a 3, where they're kind of worried. So not many people were feeling completely comfortable. So Google Forms will summarize everything for you. Okay, now I'm going to share this survey. So I'm going to quickly show you how to share a survey. Now to share a survey, we're looking again at the top right-hand corner where you see that nice purple button that says send. Click on send. So try it on your own form. When you click on send, notice now you essentially have 3 options. Don't worry about this box here where it says collect email addresses. I'm not going to be collecting email addresses right now, but you will want to do that perhaps with your students. So I can send via, you notice a little envelope, so we all know that stands for email. I can send it via a link, which you can see here. Or I could embed it. So there are 3 options. I can embed it in a web page. So again, there are 3 options for sending my form. I can send it via email, which is how many of you receive the invitation to participate in these sessions. I can send it via a link, or I can embed it in a web page. So I am going to use the one that is sending it by a link. So when I click on the paperclip, if you do that, click on your paperclip, you get this long everlasting address. Now that does not look very attractive. So notice you get a nice option here that says shorten URL. So I'm going to click that option and look what happens. Makes it much more manageable. So it's now highlighted in blue, which means I can just copy it by clicking on this copy button right here on the bottom right-hand corner. So I click the copy button. And now, colleagues, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to open chat. And I'm going to be able to put that in there for you. All right, let's see. Am I able to get into chat? Okay, here we go. To everyone in the meeting. Okay, you'll soon see my screen, colleagues. All right. So I have just shared this form with you. So I've just shared it with you. You should see it in the chat. Are we seeing it, everyone?
It is coming in the chat. Let me see.
All right, what's happening is Zoom is frozen up a little bit, so I'm hoping it's good.
Everything is freezing. I'm seeing lots of yeses, lots of yeses. Got it, yes. Lots of yeses.
Okay, excellent. So click on it. Try and fill it out. Try and fill out that survey, and I'm going to show you what's going to happen now. Excellent. People are already responding. Now, if you're seeing my screen still at the same time, notice I'm seeing the responses coming in immediately. So all I did was share that link and you're responding immediately. So if I want to see what you're saying, I'm going to now click on responses. Immediately, I can see the majority of people in this meeting are teachers. I have a few administrators. I have 111 responses so far. When I roll down, I can see most people present here are female, 93.1%, and I've done nothing. This is all Google Forms. You see how powerful it is. Which devices? Okay, as expected, smartphone and laptop are ahead of the game. Those are the two that I anticipated would be the front runners, and there they are. How comfortable are you with technology? Well, this is great. I'm seeing that many people are a 5 and above. Ms. Thompson, are we seeing that? We seem to have a pretty good comfort level.
Yes, yes, we have a good group here.
This is excellent. All right. So colleagues, I hope you've seen how absolutely simple it was to create that survey, share it with you, and immediately get responses. So you could use this survey for all kinds of things. As I told you, I used it for my own students to gauge how they were feeling about the upcoming exams and to identify which topics they felt they were weak in. So I could then really try and target my teaching to assist them. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you here before I leave this area. So I hope you notice how I got to this. Remember, we were at questions, but there are two tabs here. When I click on responses, I'm at 200 responses now. And I want you to notice I have got a lovely summary of my survey. All your responses are here. I could look at them by question by clicking on this middle tab, which is question. I could look at individuals by clicking on individuals, but we're not going to do that for this one. We will do that for a little quiz that we will set up. But what I want to show you, you see this little green button here, everybody. This looks like an Excel file, eh? You notice, you recognize this icon. This looks like an Excel file. And if we clicked on that button, I could actually create a spreadsheet of the responses. And when I create a spreadsheet of the responses, I can then download them and manipulate them further. So I'll just show you quickly how it looks, and then I'm going to come out of it. But you can play around with that. So if I click on that, it asks me if I want to create a new spreadsheet. So I'm going to say, yes, I think I want to create a new spreadsheet. So the default was create a new spreadsheet. And I'm going to click on create. All right, so automatically a window opens. Can you see this window? It has now presented all the responses that you just gave me in a spreadsheet. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we're seeing it. Yes, we're seeing it.
Excellent. So you can anticipate as a teacher, you might want it in this format because then you can download it by using file. You could click on file.
Ms. Stuart, your audio has gone low again.
Okay, again, I'm not sure. I think it's just the internet, Ms. Thompson, because nothing has changed. Just the internet. All right. So notice I could download this by using the file option if I wanted to, or I could just keep it as a Google Sheet because it is there in my Google Drive as a Google Sheet, part of the lovely G Suite tools. You're going to be learning about Sheets, I think, later this week. Isn't that right, Ms. Thompson? They're learning about Sheets.
Yes, yes, Sheets is later this week.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to close this because I'm not really interested in going into that right now. I'll leave that for the sheet person. So I'm going to close that and I'm back. We now have 238 responses and we're going to leave it at that for now because it's time now to learn how to get some of our work reduced by creating a quiz that can mark itself, colleagues. How great is that? Let us go there. So remember, I can switch between the response view and the question view just by clicking on the tabs. So you've been able to answer my survey, very little work involved. I can immediately take a pulse and see where we are. So let's open a new form, colleagues. So I'm going to challenge you to see if you remember how to open a new form. Those of us who don't remember, you can follow along with me. You go to your drive, so just go back to your drive, or open a new tab. So if you go to your drive, you're going to click on that colorful plus button that says new. Click on that colorful plus button. Roll your cursor down to where it says more. When you hold it over more, you notice Google Forms appears. roll your cursor over to the arrow beside Google Forms. And this time, let's click on From a Template. So I'm going to click on From a Template. So it's now going to open up this template gallery. And you can see there's a whole array of templates that we can choose from. How is everybody feeling? Tell me 0, 1, 2 for the best. Are you with me? If you're with me, please put a 2 or a 1, depending on how comfortable you are.
We have twos,
Perfect.
1, 0, but quite a lot of twos, quite a lot of twos.
Excellent. Now,
some zeros, but quite a lot of twos.
Okay, if you look at it, you should see one of your options. You may have to roll down a little bit to scroll it down. You should see an option for blank quiz. If you see that option, please click on it. Blank quiz. All right, and if it comes up and says blank quiz, you are there. Okay. So we're now going to learn how to do a nice blank quiz. All right, so all we've done is we've opened a brand new form. We've finished with the survey. We're now doing a brand new form that is a blank quiz. Now, if you're seeing blank form, do not worry about it. I will show you how to take care of that. We're going to go up to our gear icon, which is, remember, it stands for settings. Click on settings. Remember, you get 3 tabs: general, presentation, quizzes. I'm going to select the 3rd tab, which says quizzes. When I click on that, notice the first thing it asks me, make this a quiz. And you can see it's nice and purple, which tells me that it is selected. Because I've opened up a blank quiz, it is selected. If you opened a blank form, you would have to change that. So I could turn it off. This may be what you're seeing. If I move it to the right, just by toggling it on, notice it makes it a quiz. Are we okay with that, everybody? People all right? Ms. Thompson, how are we doing?
We have 1, 2. Let me see if anybody else answers. Or feeling twos. Lots of twos.
All right, so if colleagues, you're with me in settings, we're going to go to general. Remember, there are 3 tabs. I was at quiz for the moment, but I'm going back to general because I want to show you a couple of features that will be important for you if you're going to use this tool to administer tests to your students. It is very useful when you are administering a test to your students to collect email addresses. That means whatever they have responded, they are going to be associated with an email address. So you can see who has written what. So if you click collect email addresses, you've selected it. So I've just deselected it again. I'm going to select it. Notice it says collect email addresses. So I now have that option enabled. I'm going to collect everyone who responds to my quiz. I'm collecting their email address. Now the next thing, remember I explained to you, because this is my professional G Drive, mine is restricted by default to users in Campion College. You are able to do the survey because I deselected that, okay? But you may want to, in your school setting, if you are using a professional account, select it. That is up to you, totally up to you, all right? The other one I want to point your attention to is this one that says limit to 1 response. I'm hoping you can see limit to 1 response. Now, many of us, when we give a test, we only want our students to do the test 1 time. Other people allow them to do it multiple times because they're working for mastery. That's up to you. If you are limiting it to 1 response, you need to click it. So you click it, you limit it to 1 response. Now, if you do that, your students must have some sort of Google account because it's going to require them to sign into Google, because Google has to recognize that someone has done a quiz in order to prevent them from doing it again. All right, so that's what we have to be aware of. We're going to leave the other settings as they are, and we're going to move over back to the quizzes tab. So notice we were under general settings. We just want to get this out of the way. And we're going to move to the quizzes tab. So when you click on quizzes tab, we've already made it a quiz. Great. Let us scroll down and see what else is there. The next area I want you to focus on is release mark. Now at the moment, notice the default, it says immediately after each submission. What that means is once a child does your test, if you have this highlighted, they will get their score immediately. You may choose the second setting, which is later after manual review, because sometimes you don't want the children to know their score before everybody else has done the test. You may actually want to withhold them until everyone has taken the quiz, because if they get their score, they may be able to see the questions and see the right answer. And you know, a little bit of academic integrity, you may want to just avoid that by making sure you don't send it out to later. Again, that is up to you. For today's purposes, I'm going to leave it at immediately after each submission. When it's a multiple choice, I don't mind, that can work, and it's just practice. Now, the final area under this tab is what the respondent can see. So notice here you've got three things, and they're by default, they're ticked. Missed questions, that means candidates will see when they've missed a question, they got it wrong, but it will show them what the correct answer is, as you see by the second one. It tells them what their correct answer is. And then the final one is point value. It's going to tell them what number of points the question was worth. Now, you may want to take off the correct answers if you're worried about any sort of cheating, or if you want to not give the children the answer immediately. You want them to think about it and email you or something like that. Again, that is up to you. I'm going to leave it on for now because I want to demonstrate it to you. All right.
Could you hold on a bit, Ms. Todd? I'm having several people saying they're not seeing the screen. I am seeing it though.
Sure, it was the same issue yesterday. You know, I'm not sure why. If they're on a phone, sometimes it's a little problematic if they're on a phone, but if you're seeing it, it should be visible.
We have other people saying they're seeing it as well. Okay, so it could be somewhat.
I do apologize for some persons, but you check your device. All right, so I'm going to move back now to the top, and I am not just nearly finished the settings, nearly there. So I'm finally now going to click on this presentation, the middle tab. So click on presentation, and you can see what is shown here. It says show progress bar. Now that can be nice if you're setting a really long quiz. You know, when you've done a questionnaire, you want to know if it's soon finished. If you enable the show progress bar, it means you're going to have an idea of how far along you are, how soon it will be done. Won't bother with that today, but again, that's something you can choose. And the second one is shuffle question order. So you may want to avoid cheating, or not avoid, minimize cheating by shuffling question order, because what it will do, if a question was number 1 for one student, it may be number 10 for another student if you select this option. That can be nice, but it can also be a problem if you have grouped questions together, if you have scaffolded questions. So that's not always the best thing to choose, but I just want you to be aware that that choice is there. So I'm going to deselect it. And then the final thing here for now is a confirmation message. So the default confirmation message, which is what you got when you submitted surveys, your response has been recorded. You can change that. You could say, well done, you finished the quiz, right? You can make the confirmation message anything you want. Now, the important thing, people, before clicking out of this, you must save. And it helps you, it highlights it for you to say, remember to save, remember to save. You must save your settings. So even though everything else is saved automatically, you have to save your settings manually. So I'm going to hit save because those are the settings I want. So I'm now ready to go. Now, you can decide if you want to personalize your quiz, but the first thing we want to do is give it a name. So remember, click in the space where it says blank quiz, and I'm going to just call this Demo 1. So I'm calling it Demo 1. Then I'm going to name it up here in my drive, so I just don't forget. If I don't name it, I won't know what the heck a blank quiz is. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in the top left-hand corner, and that's now the name of my file. And that is how it will appear in my Google Drive, so I can find it in the future. Optional, you may want to add a description. You may put some instructions. Perhaps you will say, try to spend no more than 20 minutes on this quiz, or whatever instructions you want. You may say, answer all questions. Now, I'm not going to do it now, but remember, if you want to move away from the default appearance, all you do is go to Color Palette, customize your theme. Change the color, add a heading, change the background, change the font. We're going to leave it alone for now, because that is just extra stuff, if you like. Okay, so it's time now to add our question. So the first template for the question is there already. So I'm going to type in my first question. Now, colleagues, when you're giving kids or anybody really this sort of quiz, if it's a quiz, you want to know their name, right? You do want to know their name. And since I showed you before that you can get all this information in the form of a spreadsheet, it's a good idea for your first 2 questions to ask your students to type in their first name and last name. So I have highlighted my question area, and I'm going to type in first name because I want the students to add their name. That's what I want them to type in. That means it can't be multiple choice. I cannot put all the possible names that there are. So I go to the right-hand window, and I'm now going to select short answer. So remember, when you click on that arrow, you see all the different question types that are available to you. So I'm going to select short answer. So when I click on short answer, it is going to provide 1 line of text for my students to be able to write their first name there. Now, I also want them to add their last name. But before I move away from this, I'm sure you'll agree with me, I want them to say what their names are. So I need to make this a required question. So I'm hoping that you remember, you come down here where it says required, and I'm going to move the toggle switch to the right, just like turning on a light switch. And it becomes nice, bright purple, and it tells me that I have made this a required question. That means if students do not type their first name in there, they cannot proceed or submit the quiz. Is everybody okay so far? Are we at 1s and 2s, Ms. Thompson? How are we doing? How are we doing? Ms. Thompson, are we there? Not hearing Ms. Thompson. Are we there?
2s and 1s, a few zeros, some with double zeros, but 2s and 1s.
Okay, 00 people, do not lose faith. You're going to practice this, and the whole PowerPoint is going to be available later. I promise you, you are going to be able to catch up very quickly. So right now, we've entered our first question, which is a short answer question, and we've got first name. And notice we've made it a required question. Now, I want to also point out, when we've made a form, a quiz, you now see an answer key appearing. Now, you didn't see this with the survey because the survey is not a quiz. We're not assigning points. Now, for a name, we're not going to assign points either. So you're going to leave that alone, but it will be important in a moment. Now, because the next thing I want my students to do is add their last name, I'm just going to copy this question because it's the same format. So I'm going to duplicate the question. So remember what we do. We find that little icon with the 2 pieces of paper that says duplicate. That's at the bottom of your question. And I'm going to click on that with my mouse. And there you go. I've duplicated the question. And it's highlighted already, which means I can type in there immediately. And I'm going to type in last name. So I put that in. And remember, it is going to still be short answer because I just copied the question above. It is also still a required question because, again, I just copied the question above. You notice the little red star. That little red star is your giveaway. That red star tells you that it's a required question. All right, so let's get on with the exciting stuff of adding a question. So let's add a question. So remember, just like with the survey, we go to the floating toolbar at the right, and we're going to click on that plus button. And when we click on the plus button, we're going to be able to add a question. Okay, so when I add my question, I think the first question I'm going to give them is a very basic question. What color is the cross on the Jamaican flag? Okay, so I'm just doing some little basic knowledge. What color is the cross on the Jamaican flag? Now remember, for my question, the default setting is multiple choice. That works for me now. I'm okay with that. That's fine. I'm going to work with that. So I'm going to give them our 3 options. In fact, I might give them 4 so we can incorporate a little bit of confusion. So I'm going to put red. I'm going to put black. I'm going to put yellow, but I'll put gold. And I'm going to put green. So I'm giving them 4 options. Remember, this is a multiple choice question. So I've given them 4 options. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. We are now going to be setting up the quiz to be able to mark itself. If you've all been able to type in or understand how to type in your first question, just like the survey, I'm now going to show you how to make Google Forms able to mark this for you. So we're now going to employ the answer key. So when I click on answer key, you'll see it in blue below the options. I click on answer key. There are 3 things I need to do. The first thing, my eyes are led to it immediately. Notice it is highlighted. So you see the blue highlight where it has points, and there are 2 little arrows up and down. So that is where I'm going to assign points for this question. Now, to assign the points, then I'm going to use the arrows, and I'm only going to give this 1 point. So this question in my mind is only worth 1 point. So I just move the arrows. Notice I can go down to 0, or I can make it a 1 point, or I can make it more, but this is only worth 1 point. Now, once I've done that, I now need to select the right answer. Don't worry, your students won't see this now, but you need it so Google Forms can mark it for you. So what color is the cross on the Jamaican flag, colleagues? Let's see the answer in the chat. What is the color of these 4 options? What is the color? Ms. Thompson, are we answering? How are we doing? What answer am I going to put as the correct answer? How are we doing, Ms. Thompson? I don't want to open chat because it makes it a little unstable for me.
Gold, lots of gold. Everybody got it right, 100%.
So look at what I have to do. I go by gold, and I'm going to just hold my little cursor over that open circle and click in it. So you notice when I clicked in it, what happened? It turned green with a green dot in it, and you got a green check mark beside it, which tells me this is the right answer. So I have selected my correct answer. So remember I said there are 3 things we can do. First, you add the number of points. Second, you select the correct answer. And finally, notice below here you have answer feedback, add answer feedback. Now, colleagues, you don't have to use this. I use it a lot because it helps guide my students. If you click on answer feedback, notice what it gives you. It gives you the opportunity to provide some guidance to your students if they've got the question wrong. So for incorrect answers, which is the tab that opens first, I may like to put, go and review your flags. I may put that as my little pointer. There are 2 other things I could do. I could click on this little arrow here, which would allow me to add a link to a video that they could watch. And this other paperclip, I could actually add a link to a web page. We're not going to do that today, but just be aware when you're playing around with it, you can add those. So for my correct answer, I'm going to go to my tab and go to correct answer. So if the student got it right, they're just going to see well done. So I've just typed in well done. And I must remember here to save. So once I've saved, I'm done with this now. I'm done with this question. It's all set up to be able to mark it automatically. I've entered my points. I've indicated which answer is to be marked correct, and I've given my feedback. Are we okay with that, everybody? Because once you've done all of that, you have to click on the word done. So here it is, done, clicked on. So notice we've gone right back to how the quiz normally looks. Okay? Are we okay with that, everybody?
Are we okay? Let's see.
We're able to add our answer, assign points, and give feedback. We're going to do it another time, so don't worry. We're going to practice, but I want to just know if you're with me at the moment. So as you're answering, how are we looking, Ms. Thompson?
I'm not seeing any answers. There's lots of tools, and we're enjoying this.
Good, excellent. All right, so let me show you a nice little thing, teachers, because we know we want to minimize any sort of cheating that could occur between students. And one of the best ways to do that is to mix up the options. So look at this nice little feature on Google Forms. Remember, we've already made this question a compulsory question. It is a required question. If you no longer want to make it a required question, you can always turn that off. But if you look to the right of that, you're going to see there are 3 dots, 3 vertical dots. Click on those 3 dots and notice you get 3 things that you could do. I am only interested in the 3rd thing. 3rd thing says shuffle option order. Now, if I click on shuffle option order, that means that every student is going to get the options presented to them in a different order, which means if students are collaborating on the phone, and if they're saying, or whatever it is, mind you, they can get around this, you know, but they might say, it's the 1st one, the 2nd one, the 3rd one. You can't answer that way. They can't cheat that way because they're going to get a different set of options. So again, that's up to you if you want to do that. All right, let's add a question, everybody. So everybody is familiar with how to add a question now. You go to that floating toolbar, click on the plus button, and we are going to add another question. All right. Now, someone was asking about images. How about I show you how to do some images right now? Let's introduce an image right now. Okay. Since we're on flags, let's do another flag question. Suppose we want to let the students identify a flag. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. If you look beside your question area, you notice that what comes up beside it is a picture icon. So that little picture icon is like two little mountain peaks. That picture icon just beside the question where you would type your question. I'm going to click on that picture icon. Now, when I click on that picture icon, look what happens. It opens up this window, which says insert image. And I can do an upload of an image from my computer. I can take a picture, and I can take something from Google Drive, or I can do a Google image search. So I'm going to do a Google image search. So you have all these tabs. I'm going to click on Google image search. Ms. Thompson, someone seems to have their mic open. Could I ask the person that has their mic open to please turn it off?
And I'll go searching.
Thank you. All right, so I've clicked on Google image search, and I'm now going to look for the flag for Trinidad. So Trinidad and Tobago flag. So I'm just doing a search, just like you would do in Google search. I'm just doing a search. So I enter my term and I'm searching. Wow, there you go, lots of options. So I think I like the second one. So I'm going to just click on it. And when I click on it, I go to the bottom right-hand corner where it says insert. Click on that. And bingo, what's gonna happen? There is the flag. Flag appears. So I've now successfully inserted a flag into my quiz. Now my only thing is this is a little big. So I think I want to make it a tiny bit smaller. Easy to do, colleagues. Left click on it, and you notice you get 4 blue dots in the corner, which means you can resize it. So when I get the 4 dots in the corner, I'm just going to bring my cursor to one of the corners, the bottom right-hand corner, and my cursor becomes this double-headed arrow. So if I do that, I can now select it and move it to make it smaller. So there you go. It's a much nicer size now.
Mr. We have a question. Can you insert a snip of a screen?
A snip of a screen, you mean like a screenshot?
A screenshot, yes.
Yes, you can certainly take a picture of your screen. You would have to save that picture to your Google Drive or to your computer. And the same way we added an image a while ago, instead of doing a Google image search, you would just upload it by selecting from your computer. It gave that option, so certainly you can do that. In fact, I'll show you one in a second. All right, so I now need to put my question because I haven't put the question yet. So let's put the question. So I'm going to write, what country does this flag represent? All right, so I've typed my question in my little tab. We've got the image. It's a multiple choice question, that's fine. So I'm going to now add my options. So when I click in option 1, I'm just going to type some random options. Let's go with Jamaica. And then below Jamaica, I'm going to add my second option. I'm going to put in Cuba. I must make sure and put the right answer. So I'm going to put in Trinidad and Tobago. And then below that, I think I'm going to add one more option. I'm going to put Dominica. So you can do that. Okay. Now, here we go. Now, suppose I want to actually make sure that these options get shuffled again. Remember what we do? We go down to that bottom right-hand corner where you have the 3 dots. Click on it. You see shuffle option order. I'm going to select that because I like when it shuffles the options for my students. Now, the next thing, I hope you recall, we have to put in the answer key. This is what is going to save us the work, colleagues. So at the bottom of the question, notice we have the answer key. So I click on answer key. And what's going to open up for me? First thing to do, 3 things we have to do, remember. We have to enter the number of points. This is an easy question. So again, I'm only going to make this a 1 pointer. 1 point for that. So I've entered my number of points. Now I have to select the correct answer. So remember what we do. We just take our cursor, place it over the circle beside the correct answer, and click in it. Trinidad and Tobago, you notice your green tick appears. That tells you it's the right answer. And the third thing you do, if you want to, you don't have to do it. You can add answer feedback. Under answer feedback, you can give them guidance, or you can just say, well done, if they got the correct answer. That is up to you. Whichever way you do it, you must always remember to select done when you're finished. So I've clicked done and I'm out. Now let me draw your attention to something very neat. Look at the top of the screen, and if you're looking at your own quiz and you've entered 2 questions, you notice it's keeping track of how many points my quiz is out of now. I can see here total points 2. See there? Total points 2. So it has added up the number of points that I have assigned so far. So that's great. I know how big my quiz is so far. Right.
Okay, Mr. We have 2 questions. Can you take 2 questions?
Certainly.
1, can you write chemical formulas? And number 2, can you set a time limit as to how long students are allowed to take the quiz for?
Okay, so for the first one, the chemical formulas, it is not so friendly for the chemical formulas, to be honest with you. Google Forms hasn't really got up to that yet. The way I would get around it is to search for it perhaps in Google Images and save the picture of it, which I could then insert, but that could be a little troublesome. So it's not perfect for that. No, I would not say it is a perfect tool for that. For the second question that you have, which is if you can set a time limit, you would have to do what is called an add-on. Now, I put some video references, I asked Ms. Thompson to put some video references in the Google Classroom. And in one of those tutorials, it takes you through how to do this add-on. Google Forms on its own can't set the time limit, but you can do a little additional application that can allow you to set a time limit. Not on individual questions, colleagues, but on the whole quiz. So it's not perfect, but it helps. All right, so I hope that's answered your questions. All right, someone was asking about inserting an image from your computer. So let's look at how to do that quickly. So I am going to add another question. So I press my plus, add another question, and you notice a question has appeared below. So you are saying, let's see if we can add a question from the computer. So I am going to go, again, if you're inserting an image, you're going to go to that little icon which has the mountain range. So you click on that little mountain range. So notice your options. You've got upload, camera, IURL, photos, Google Drive, Google Image Search. Now I'm going to do upload. So when I've got upload, I could have just dragged the file there, but I'm not really ready for that. So I'm going to browse. So I click on browse. And what you're going to see happen, it is going to open up all my various files. So I have to know what I'm looking for, and I'm looking for biology images in my OneDrive. So I find the folder I'm looking for, and I actually know which image I want to select for today. So I'm going to select this particular image here, PL November 2002. So all you have to do is click on it to select it, and then click on open. And what you'll notice is there it is, it's been inserted. All right, so there is the image, and that was uploaded from my computer. Now guess what? This quiz is not about biological molecules, so I don't want to keep this question. I could, if I wanted to, just like before, type in the question, type in my options, but this time, no, I don't want it, so I'm going to delete it. So you just come down to your trash can and you delete it, and it's gone. All right, now I'm going to add one more question, and this time I'm going to show you, and this can be very useful for angles, for example. So let's add a question. So my math teachers who may be present, let's add a little question here. We're going to go away from the flags at the moment. And I'm going to say, which of these is an, no, let's say, which of these is a parallelogram? Suppose you are doing that topic. So I want to know which of these is a parallelogram. So I know I want to put images as my options, all right? So remember what we did for options is that we would normally type in, but this time we're not typing in, we're putting images. When I hover my cursor over option 1, I hope you can see that a little picture icon has appeared on the right. So when I click on that, I can add an image. Now I may have it saved on my computer. I don't happen to have it saved because I haven't taught maths for a long time. So I'm going to go to a Google image search, and I'm just going to look for a picture of a rectangle. Because remember, I want some wrong answers in there. So I'm going to search for a rectangle. There are some lovely rectangles. So I'm just going to choose one of them. And I'm going to click on it. And then I'm going to click on Insert. Insert. And there you're going to see option 1. There's my rectangle. So I hope you can see we've inserted a rectangle. So let's make sure we now have a right answer. So we click in the option 2 area and notice that my picture icon appears. If I click on the picture icon, I can now go and find a parallelogram. So I'm going again, Google image search. So I select that tab and I'm going to look for a parallelogram. Search, and there are some nice parallelograms. Okay, we don't want to be too obvious. So let's see, there's lots of choices here, but I'll go with I'll go with this colorful one just for now. So I'm going to select that one. So you just click on it with your mouse and you press insert, and there it is. Now I know my maths teachers are saying this is way too easy a question. That's all right. We're just doing it for demonstration purposes. You can add many more if you've got the idea, because I want to show you what this quiz is going to be looking like. So remember, the next thing we have to do, colleagues, is put in the answer key. So answer key. Okay, how many points is this worth? We're going to keep it at 1 point. Use our little arrows and put the number of points. Then we have to select the right answer. So we know the right answer here is option 2. We can see the green ticky appears. We know we've selected the right answer, and I'm not bothering to add answer feedback. And I'm going to click here, done. All right, so we've only added 3 questions, colleagues, and for the purposes of today, I'm going to leave it at that and show you a little preview. So let's look at what our quiz looks like. So we're going to go to the top. Notice the total is 3 points at the moment. We're going to go to the little eye icon for a preview. Click on that and it opens a new tab, and this shows us what the quiz looks like. So first name, students have to type in their first name because you see your little star there, red star telling you it's required. Last name, you have to type that one too. The next question is also compulsory. It's a quiz. I want them to answer everything. So we're seeing the options. There's our pretty little flag, and there are our options for the parallelogram. Now, let's just do it. Let's do the quiz. So I'm just going to type in my name, Catherine. I'm going to type in my last name, because you can test the quiz. It's always a good idea to test out the quiz. I'm going to add the color of the cross. And colleagues, I know the color of the cross, but I'm going to deliberately get it wrong because I want to test my quiz. So I'm going to deliberately get it wrong. I'm going to click on green. And then what country? Well, I'm going to get that right. I'm going to click on Trinidad. And then which of these is a parallelogram? Well, let's get that wrong as well. So I'm going to click on option 1. And now I just hit submit. Now when I hit submit, see, I get my message. Well done, you finished the quiz. I could view my score immediately. If I click on view score, I did not do so well. I got 1 out of 3. Not so good. And this is what your students would see. They'll see their score. Notice in the first question, we'd given them feedback. So it tells me the correct answer and it gives me feedback. Go and review your flags. Okay, miss. I'm seeing that I got this question right, but I got the third question wrong. And it tells me what the correct answer is. So that's useful. Now I'm going to close this tab, all right, because I was just testing the quiz to see if it worked. So I'm closing it. I'm going to close this tab as well that says view score. So I'm closing that. And now I am going back to my quiz. And here is my quiz. Now notice
okay, Ms. Stewart, could we, one question.
Sure.
Someone has said that they had the first name and last name, and now that it has been shuffled. Why is that?
Oh, well, remember I said don't shuffle those questions. Perhaps they selected the shuffle option when you did settings. Remember, colleagues, we went to settings early on, and I showed you under presentation, you could shuffle question order. So if you selected shuffle question order under settings, it's going to mix up your questions. You might not want to do that. So I deselected it for mine. So perhaps when you set up your quiz, you forgot to deselect that. And that may be why. All right?
Okay.
All right, so notice I'm the only person that's done this quiz so far, so there's one response. So if I click on that tab for responses, I can see what I put. And the first thing I'm seeing is a summary. So it tells me how many points I got. It's telling me which questions were missed frequently, which is very useful. So these two, remember, colleagues, is only one person who's done the quiz so far. So it's not that helpful. It's telling me that the score has not yet been released. And it is telling me my name, it's telling me what answers I put. So I can see everything that each student may put. Now, because I was simply testing this, colleagues, I want to get rid of my response. I don't want to save this because it will mess up my results. I won't know how well my students did. Very easy to get rid of your response, okay? Now, if you look, remember, I showed you already this green icon that stands for the Excel, the Google Sheets. To the right of it are those three buttons. When you see three vertical buttons, it means there's something more. There are additional options. So we're going to click on that. And notice at the very bottom, it says delete all responses. And I pay attention that you see there are other things you could do. You could print responses. You could download responses. Now, because I was just testing the quiz to make sure it worked, I'm going to delete my response. I'm deleting all responses. It asks me if I'm sure. Are you sure? Because you cannot undo that. I am sure. So I click on OK. Notice 0 responses. So it's gone back to 0. So I'm back at questions. All right, so my quiz is ready to go. I can now share it with my students. I showed you with the survey how I would do that. I would go, if you remember with me, to the send button. Click on the send button. Now with your students, you're very likely to have your students' email addresses. If not, use the link. Go to the middle tab, select the link option, shorten the URL, copy it, and then you can paste it in WhatsApp, you can paste it in a Word document, you can paste it in an email, you can paste it on your LMS. Up to you. I usually share my quizzes using email. So I go to email and you see where it says to. So because I have my students saved under a group, I can just type in 6 and you notice what comes up. 6B1 biology, 30 contacts, 6B2 biology, 29. So I can select groups that I want. If I only want to send it to one person, I can do that as well. I could send it to Miss Thompson. I could just go there. So there her name comes up because she is in my contacts. And I can send it to whoever I wish, but you would have to type in their addresses there. So that's how you would share the quiz. Right.
Ms. Stewart, a quick question. Are you able to close and reopen a quiz?
Absolutely. Excellent question. So I would like to move to show you one that I have done. So I'm going to move over away from this quiz and just show you one I did recently. I gave them some practice on cell membranes. So you should notice that I have 27 responses to this little quiz. Total points were out of 12. So you, colleagues, I want you to see how powerful this thing is, you know. You can see, I can see how the kids did. Nobody got less than 6. I'm not so happy with the 6, but someone got a 6. A couple of people got a 12, 3 people. I can see which question was a problem question, which means when I revise with them, I can focus on this concept. See, it says frequently missed questions. I can see the scores for my individual students, and then I can look at individual questions. And I can see what students put. So you can see this question, people got it right. Everybody got that question right. Fine. Let me take you to one where it's a problem. Look at this one. You can see 15 people got it right, but 6 people equally chose the wrong response. So I know I have to focus on this concept. So it's very useful. So to go to the question, I'm scrolling back up. Notice here it says accepting responses. So if you want to close your quiz, you've told them they must complete the quiz in a day, and normally that's what I do. I tell them that they need to complete the quiz between X time and Y time. And at the time that I plan to close the quiz, I simply use this toggle switch, move it to the left. Notice, not accepting responses. So I've turned it off. If you change your mind and you want to turn it back on, you just switch it back on. So that's totally up to you. Now, because I'm still running my quiz, I'm leaving it on, but you could easily turn it off at any time you wish. All right, we have pretty much run out of time. There's so much more we could learn about. We can insert a video. We can do all manner of other things with Google Forms. I'm hoping that you're going to pay attention to the tutorials that are posted in Google Classroom and have a look at the PowerPoint. We weren't able to get to everything today, but I didn't want to lose you at all. So please let me know, Ms. Thompson, are there any other quick questions we have? Because we are at 7 o'clock right now. And I know people are.
Are there any other lovely presentation, very informative? Are there any specific questions? Presentation, very useful, great session, excellent presentation. Okay, right. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll address some housekeeping issues.
Certainly.
There are several people who are putting their emails in the chat for the presentation to be emailed to them. Okay, let me explain what will happen. If you have registered for this session, the presentation will eventually be emailed to you. If you would like to see the presentation tonight, for those of you who were here yesterday, if you remember, we started a Google Classroom, and many of you, up to this morning, there were 800 of you who joined that class, that Google Classroom. The presentation is already available in that Google Classroom. So all you need to do now is go there and the presentation is there. I should get the recording for this presentation. If I get it tonight, I will load it up tonight as well. So that is the quickest way that you will get access to the presentation and the recording. For those of you who have not signed up for the Google Classroom, just quickly to let you know, you need a Gmail account. Then you go to classroom.google.com and you join with the code GMQ. I think people are having difficulty because we're not differentiating between the G and the Q. GMQ 4RC7. Please write down the code. I'm going to repeat it. GMQ 4RC7. So along with the presentations, we have put some additional resources for today's presentation and for the presentation yesterday as well. So that is how you can take your time and go back to see what is happening. I don't know if there are any other questions. I am unable to go through and pick off email addresses because once I close the meeting, I do not have access to that.
Right,
So
and
this is the easiest and quickest way to get it.
the chat has actually frozen on my end, so I can't see what's going on because I think we're quite full. But I just want to thank you, everybody, for your attention. I want to urge you to play around with Google Forms. Go and play around with it. It is a very powerful tool. You can insert videos, ask students questions about the videos. Very, very easy. Just play around with it. Look at my PowerPoint that is posted in the Google Classroom with Ms. Thompson, and you will see the instructions there of how to insert a video. All right, so sorry we couldn't get through more, everyone, but we wanted to keep everybody on the same page. There's a lot more to learn, but you can learn it yourself by good old Google University, YouTube. YouTube has a lot of useful tutorials.
Okay, so we want to thank Ms. Stewart for a lovely presentation today. I want to make one other point. The Google Classroom that you're in now that we set up yesterday, that is a Google Classroom that we personally set up and has nothing to do with JTC. JTC has another Google Classroom that you're going to have to hand in your assignment. That is not what we're talking about, okay? We just did this so that you'd have access to the material really quickly. Asked me to repeat the code again. GMQ 4RC7. GMQ 4RC7. So we're going to, since there are no more questions, we're going to close off. It is now after 7, so we want to thank you for coming. You have really been a wonderful set of participants, really enthusiastic, and we were happy to have you. So we will see you at the next presentation, which is tomorrow, same time.
Thank you, everyone. Ms. Thompson, my screen is frozen. I'm hoping you're going to be able to close off.
I will certainly try.
All right.
All right, so goodbye, everybody. Have a good evening.